Okay, and the sun rose from the black sky. So injuries were had and taken care of a little bit. And sweet nothings were said as we started budding, somehow. But hey, it's July now, so let's see what else happens. Wonder what's next. Or is it time to say goodbye to Heisuke yet? End of July 1864. Weeks passed since the Battle of the Ikeda Inn. In the meantime, the Shinsengumi grew stricter during their rounds to arrest the numerous outlaw ronin that escaped from the Ikeda Inn. Rumors surfaced of extremists who were plotting to exact revenge on the Shinsengumi. Additionally, there were also problems occurring with warriors spanning from other domains, making things tense around the headquarters. Things were finally settling down. Oh no, it's time for our friend to come and visit. Hello. Hachiro Iba. Before you know it, we'll be doing his route. Can't believe how quickly we're moving through this. Okay, so he's gonna come visit. Trying to remember what's next. I don't think Heisuke left after Iba. I mean, he does leave after Iba, but not immediately after. Alright, let's see where we go now. Okay, July is done. It's now August. What happened in August? After the fight at the inn, I was able to leave the compound much more often. I suppose after what I'd done, Hijikata thought I earned a little more trust. I didn't feel like I did anything extraordinary, but I wasn't about to look a gift horse in the mouth. I was genuinely happy that the man Hijikata approved of me. On this particular day, I was out on patrol with Harada and the 10th Division. Is this when he asks us if we're gonna join them to Mount Tenno? Maybe? Excuse me, Harada? The Shinsengumi is out patrolling day and night, right?
Yeah, that's right. What about it?
But what exactly is it that you do? Most of the men in the Shinsengumi were intimidating, death-dealing titans, but Harada was a rare exception, warm and friendly.
Well, I guess we do just about everything. Obviously, we arrest people who want to test out their swords or don't pay for their food.
People who don't pay for food?
And then there's those chumps who think they'll make a living leaning on the merchants.
It wasn't really the answer I'd expected. I guess the Shinsengumi's job is closer to a magistrate's than I thought. Thinking back, I remembered how excited they were during the raid. What they did at the inn was far more intense than their day-to-day work. A little further down the road, a couple of men in Shinsengumi blues were waving at us. Ah, okay, well Shin's here, so we'll continue. Nagakora! I guess our separate rounds brought us to the same spot.
Hey there, Chizuru. You find out anything about your dad?
No, nothing today.
Aw, come on, cheer up. There is always tomorrow, right?
Yeah, you're right. There was something contagious about his optimism.
Well, Shinpachi, you find anything exciting? No, nothing in particular, but all of the people on the street are acting busy, you know?
I hadn't noticed it before, but he was right. They were acting strange, almost nervous. Yeah, it looks like they're getting ready to move.
You think maybe they're worried about getting caught in the middle of a war?
What? War? There wasn't a war, was there?
Oh yeah, we didn't tell you yet, huh? Well, those Choshu bastards are showing up around Kyoto again, hence our extra rounds. Well, we did give them a bloody nose at Ikeda. I can't imagine they'll just stand around with some of their guys in the ground.
Were the Choshu going to try something again?
Beats me. Kinda hard to tell at the moment. It doesn't matter anyway. We just do our job. The Choshu attack Kyoto, we drive them back. Simple.
They accepted their situation and never complained. I had a good deal of respect for Harada and Nagakora.
If they don't back off soon, we're probably gonna be getting new orders all the way from the top.
So you think the Aizu will give you all orders?
Yeah, they might ask us to join as part of the official shogunate troops. Well, chances like this only come every so often. Who knows when the next one will be? Wanna join us?
What? I was perplexed by his sudden invitation. Does this mean I could march as a member of the Shinsengumi? It seemed rather inappropriate for me to ask to participate just for curiosity's sake. Still, I very much hoped to be helpful in some way. Could I perhaps do something like what I'd done at the Ikeda Inn? However, there's also the chance that I become a hindrance as opposed to helping them out. I will come, though, because Shin's going. My mind was made up. I nodded to Harada. I want to help. I would like to participate and help in some way.
Alright, thanks for letting me know. When the time comes, I'll be sure to back you up so you could join us.
Thanks, Boo. I was like, I don't need to click anything again, do I? Nope, just a very slow fade. Oh. Several days later. Excuse me. I carefully lifted the serving platter with tea for the captains and made my way to the common room. When I heard this music, I thought we were getting a new scene, but no.
Aw, thanks. Thanks, Chizuru. Man, it's like you're our servant or something.
I mean, well, I was a page as far as everyone knew. The thought to correct him crossed my mind, but instead I stayed silent as I passed the tea out.
Thank you, Yukimura. I feel bad asking you to do this.
Oh, it's nothing. After all, I am Hichikata's page. I spoke barely above a whisper, but in a way smiled and nodded at me. Okita took a sip of his tea and a mild grimace flickered across his face. Is something wrong with the tea? The taste is fine, but it could be a little hotter. Maybe you're taking too long to pour it. But I guess I can expect this from you. I'm sorry, I'll make a new batch right now. Don't worry about it. I like it lukewarm. I can drink it immediately, right, Hajime?
Sure. Right. I guess lukewarm tea isn't bad on a hot day like today.
It was silent for a second before the door slid open and Kondo arrived with a stern look upon his face.
The Shinsengumi has received an official request from the Aizu domain. All available soldiers must begin preparations to move out immediately. Yeah! It seems the Aizu have finally noticed all the hard work we've been doing, men.
He looked just as happy with the news as the rest of them. Apparently, getting orders directly from the Aizu domain was an occasion for some excitement. Hijikata, however, was the lone exception.
We don't have time for this shit. Stop patting each other on the back and get moving. We need to go now. The Choshu are already in Kyoto. We can't let them gain the upper hand on us.
As Hijikata rebuked the men, the warriors all scattered sequentially to their stations. When it was only the captains and myself remaining in the room, Hijikata vented.
What? So only when the Choshu attack Kyoto is everyone ready to go? This is bullshit.
Thinking back at what happened at Ikeda Inn, while the Shinsengumi were fighting hard, the Aizu domain was elsewhere and came strolling in way later at the scene. Remembering that incident, I feel like I can understand Hijikata, at least to some extent. Okita and Todo, you will remain at headquarters. I doubt you'll like it, but, well, neither do I. Your injuries keep you from active duty, as do mine. He rubbed his left arm absently and looked away. Hey, speak for yourself. It's not like my injuries didn't recover or something. But I guess I'm not at 100% either. So if you're telling me to sit this one out, I will. You're making a big deal out of nothing. This is just a scratch. Kondo's being a wuss. Okita acted as if he didn't hear Sanan at all, while Heisuke pouted.
You sure about that? All last night you were crying like a baby.
You son of a bitch! Why you gotta rat me out? Is there even a heart in there, you old bastard?
But you did scream like a baby though, right? Right, Chizuru?
Hey! Don't ask her! It'd be nice if you could keep your mouth shut for once, you know.
He glanced sideways at me. But, Heisuke, it's true that your injury hasn't recovered. His bangs hid the scar rather well, but it still looked painful. Poor Heisuke. Nagakura broke the awkward silence.
Oh yeah. Chizuru, you said you wanted to go with us if we got called in, right? You still up for that?
Even though I told Harada that I was into the idea of joining them, it still seemed a little risky.
Ah, yes. Well, I see no reason why not. After all, opportunities like this are seldom seen.
For some reason, Kondo was easy to convince. I wasn't expecting him to be so easily swayed.
What the hell? If she's tagging along, maybe it'd be a good idea for me to come too, right?
You're still all out of shape though, right? You stay behind at the compound. Ah, that's awesome, Chizuru.
Are you sure it'll be alright? Hijikata and Sanan sighed at the sight of my reservations, which was understandable.
We can't promise you won't get hurt or worse. You should stay here.
Do you wish to place undue burden on the Shinsengumi? We are not here to entertain you.
Colonel Sanan, can I take that to mean, so long as she is not a burden, she is free to accompany us?
I blinked. Saito, standing up for me? Sanan seemed nearly as surprised as I was.
You can't be saying you're actually in favor of bringing her along.
Saito simply shrugged.
She was an asset at Ikeda. I only intended to point out that, judged by her actions, she has hardly proven to be a burden.
Never in a million years would I have imagined that Saito might have a word of praise for me. That's why he's best bean. My eyes grew wide with elation, and Kondo nodded in agreement.
Excellent. I will take full responsibility for your inclusion. That is, of course, if you still wish to participate.
Sanan still didn't seem convinced. I looked around the room until my eyes met Okita's. Do whatever you want to do, so long as you get that we're going to a battle, not a party. It looked like I wasn't about to get any help from Okita, who looked nonplussed either way. Perhaps I'd be able to help them out, like I had during the Battle of Ikeda Inn. I nodded. Yes, I would like to participate. Let's do it. After that, everything was a blur. As quickly as we could, we prepared for battle and marched to the Fushimi Magistrate's office. There were a number of the Kyoto Judiciary Commissioner's men gathered there as well, in preparation for battle with the Choshu. Walking proudly in front of the men, Kondo approached the government official near the gate.
We, the Shinsengumi, are reporting as requested by Lord Katamori Matsudaira, the Lieutenant General of the Aizu.
Katamori Matsudaira was the lord of the Aizu domain, and also the Kyoto Military Commissioner, which made him a very important person. His name would have been immediately recognized. The men standing near the gate looked slightly taken aback by the mention of the Shinsengumi.
You were told to report here? But we received no such orders.
No, that didn't make any sense. What? Perhaps sensing my confusion, Saito leaned over and whispered under his breath.
If they haven't received notice of our orders, lines of communication are likely in disarray.
Do you mean the Choshu is overpowering the shogunate's forces?
Not necessarily. However, I do suspect the enemy to be doing well.
This could be tricky. The Judiciary Commissioner and the Military Commissioner had similar organizations, but they operate very differently. The Military Commissioner's office was under the jurisdiction of the Aizu domain, while the Kuwana domain controlled the Judiciary Commissioner. I didn't fully understand the relationships between each domain, but so far as I knew, the Aizu and Kuwana weren't quite fond of one another.
Nonetheless, our assistance has been formally requested. If you could only speak to your supervisor...
It wouldn't make a difference. Now get! We have no use for Mibu's wolves!
How terrible. And after they'd asked for the Shinsengumi's help. I felt Harada's hand on my shoulder and turned to look up at him.
Forget about them. This isn't anything to make a fuss about. We get this sort of crap all the time.
But this is so galling. I wasn't truly a member of the Shinsengumi, but even so. After living with the Shinsengumi men and watching how they worked, I couldn't bear to see how they were treated, which is why this felt wrong to me. Every one of the Shinsengumi has worked so hard to maintain peace in Kyoto. How could these people who are supposed to be our allies turn us away without a second thought?
I appreciate the gesture, but I'm gonna need you to toughen up for me if you can. If we throw a fit here, then we might hurt Aizu's reputation. You get it?
Oh. The Kawana would only need to complain that the Shinsengumi hadn't showed them proper respect to make trouble for the Aizu. All of the men, including Harada, understood what needed to be done, and they endured.
There's nothing we can do here, Chief. We should leave the magistrate alone and meet with the Aizu Domain's men on our own.
Saito's suggestion to Kondo was rudely interrupted by Takeda.
Us? Leave? What's the point of ignoring a military command in the battlefield? Chief, everyone knows that messengers get delayed during war. Leaving now would be foolish. I think we should remain here on standby.
If this location were a camp to which we were stationed, then maybe it'd be making sense. Unfortunately, it is not, and it would be wise for us to act in the best interest of the Shinsengumi.
Do you dare oppose my opinion? An opinion, mind you, from the Shinsengumi's war counselor?
Cool it. Saito brings up a good point.
Kondo nodded deeply as he glanced at Saito.
We, the Shinsengumi, will officially look for the camp that military commissioner is constructing.
And with that, the Shinsengumi set off to find the soldiers at the Aizu domain. Night had fallen by the time we arrived at Kujo Beach. After leaving the Fushimi magistrate's office, we made for the Aizu Manor. Upon arriving, we relayed our previous encounter and asked for new orders. The manor official we met with directed us to go to Kujo Beach, which we did. However...
What? The Shinsengumi is to join us? We've received no such order. I apologize, but could you speak with the commander at the
Nagakura seemed to tolerate no more of this.
What the hell? He was the one who told us to come here, goddammit! You wanna fuck us over, fine, but you're gonna be disobeying a direct order from your superior, pal. You really wanna do that?
Please, calm down. I don't know what you...
The man flinched and shivered, then fell silent. Kondo did his best to assume a professional air, but there was no hiding his massive grin.
I would like to speak to your commanding officer. Do you think you might be able to take me to him?
At last, after a great deal of trouble, we were allowed to remain with the troops at Kujo Beach. The chief and the captains left the rest of us to speak with the Aizu commanders. They returned some time later, looking tired and drained. Inoue, who had gone with them, also wore a bitter sort of half-smile.
Well, it would seem that the men stationed here are reserves, and not the main force of their army. Their main force has been committed to the defense of Hamaguri Gate.
They're treating the Shinsengumi like reserves?
Then why the hell did they send us a message acting like this was some sort of emergency? We can't predict what might happen. Battle may soon approach us. There is little to do but wait.
So all we can do is wait. There was a chance that the call would come at night, so the men stayed awake, ready to act. Oh, hello again.
Just let us know if you need to rest a bit, Chizuru. You're always welcome to sleep on my lap.
Oh, no, I'm fine. I shook my head. It wouldn't be fair for me to be the one to sleep. The men had to remain alert, anticipating that they could face death at any moment. And then I fell asleep. Anxiety wrapped around me until I slept near dawn. The men, however, were vigilant through the night. Even as I drifted in and out of consciousness, I could see them nearby, persisting against the night. The break of dawn burned my eyes as I heard it. A cannon?! The crack of a gunshot tore through the morning air, and in the distance I heard men shouting and the clang of metal. The fighting had begun. The captains looked at one another and nodded.
It's time we left.
I stared at him for a moment, perhaps not yet fully awake, until I understood what he was saying. Right! With a quick nod, I readied myself to go, then...
Stop! What do you think you're doing? We were ordered to stay here.
Did you just tell me to stop?
Even during our lengthy march the day before, I'd never seen Hijikata mad. Maybe, because of his position as commander, he was afraid to express himself when his temper flared up, but it looked as if he reached his limit. Normally, he left the yelling to Nagakora and stayed patient when speaking with army officials. This time, however, he finally had enough.
I thought your job here was to protect the imperialist state, but you'd rather sit on your fat ass. We're here to stop those Choshu assholes from attacking. Tell me, what are the Choshu doing?
But we haven't received any orders.
Hijikata was in no mood for excuses.
If you've got any kind of pride in your job, then forget your goddamn orders and move!
Without even waiting for our response, Hijikata spun around and stalked off, fuming. Where are we going? I didn't dare raise my voice above a whisper, but I asked Saito, who was walking near me.
To the enemy, which, in this case, means Hamaguri Gate.
Hamaguri Gate. You mean where Aizu's main force is protecting, right?
The battle at the gate is likely to be an intense one. You'd better prepare yourself.
All right. Hijikata's fury seemed to rouse the Aizu's reserve, who up to this point seemed flustered by the threat of conflict, watching the Shinsengumi march. At the end, they followed the Shinsengumi to the Hamaguri Gate. Before long, we'd arrived. Oh my gosh. The gate was pockmarked with scores of bullets, and everywhere dead and dying soldiers littered the ground. The acrid stink of firearms hung in the air. Even though I tried to prepare myself mentally for what lay before me, my heart shattered from the traces of war occurring ahead. The enemy, however, was nowhere to be seen. We had arrived too late. The battle was already over. After a moment of stunned silence, several of our men were dispatched by Hijikata to determine what happened. Then Kondo sighed.
What are the Choshu thinking? They've raided the imperialist state.
I find it difficult to know what they're doing. How do they claim to be an imperialist domain?
Kondo simply nodded. The Choshu defined themselves as among those who revered the emperor, yet they attack his home? It didn't make sense to me either. Nevertheless, the damage was done. I was in the middle of pondering their reasons when Saito returned to me.
It appears the Choshu attacked Hamaguri in the early morning, but were repelled by the combined forces of the Aizu and Satsuma.
The forces standing against them were too much for the Choshu, who were forced to retreat. The corner of Hijikata's mouth curled into a grin.
So, Satsuma is helping Aizu now, are they? Times sure are changing. Considering their less than friendly past, it would seem the Choshu became their common foe.
The Satsuma and Aizu domains hadn't been on the best of terms. I thought that they outsmarted the family domain and allied with the imperial court to expel foreigners. However, I recall my father telling me that they were not much different than the Choshu. Unlike the Choshu, however, they'd gone to war with a foreign force and suffered a devastating loss. Following their defeat, I learned the Satsuma began to reconsider their nationalistic stance. However, those were only rumors, and what had come to pass had yet to be fully determined.
Hijikata! Supposedly there's still some of those Choshu bastards fighting over at the Kuge Gate.
Yamazaki? Hijikata's expression changed as he considered Harada's words, but before he could open his mouth to speak, Yamazaki appeared.
Commander, we believe the men who led this raid are headed for Mount Tenno.
Mount Tenno was located between Kyoto and Osaka. Supposedly, they're in the middle of escaping from Fushimi towards Osaka. After hearing the report from both Harada and Yamazaki, Hijikata contemplated deeply. Although Kondo was recognized as the formal head of the Shinsengumi, I'd learned from everyone that all major decisions were deferred to Hijikata. This was no exception, and I could see that all eyes were on him. He was silent for a few moments, and then I saw his mouth curve in a small smile.
Looks like our work's cut out for us, boys. Harada, take your men to Kuge Gate to deal with those Choshu bastards. Sure thing, boss. Saito, Yamazaki, I want you to figure out what the situation is here. Hold Hamaguri Gate. As you wish.
Got it.
Your job's a tough one, Chief. I know this is a bitch, but I want you to speak with the Aizu bigwigs about a punitive expedition. So, punitive expedition for the Choshu, right? Some of those bastards are headed for Tenno, but others will run around and cause trouble. If we're gonna go after them, then we'll need to leave Kyoto, but only you can get us those papers.
The Shinsengumi were entrusted with the protection of Kyoto, and if this war was for aiding the Aizu, then they had to do more than just guard the gate. Leaving our post, however, to chase after the Choshu troops meant that we needed permission from the military commissioner, meaning the Aizu.
I see. If it's the chief of the Shinsengumi, the commissioner's office will listen to what we want.
After what we'd gone through the day before, I didn't imagine Kondo's task would be an easy one. Still, if the representative was anyone other than Kondo, the Aizu would be unlikely to grant the request, let alone entertain the notion of a meeting.
Again, I want you to go with him. Somebody has to keep an eye on our chief, all right?
Of course, I'll do my best, Commander.
Another laugh ran through the soldiers, and Kondo's mouth twisted into a wry sort of grin. Perhaps he chose not to deny it because he knew he might go a little crazy.
The rest of you are coming with me to Tenno. As for you...
He looked directly at me. I wasn't a warrior, nor did I have political ties. Hijikata didn't know what to do with me. Suddenly, I felt very much like a dead weight.
You can't go with Kondo, but other than that, it's up to you.
All right. Kondo was meeting with the leaders of the Aizu. If I joined him, there would be nothing for me. I had many options for what I could do. Hijikata would be pursuing the leaders of the Choshu attack toward Tenno Mountain. Saito would be staying at Hamaguri Gate, protected and to gather information. Harada and his men would be going to Kuge Gate to stop the attack on the Imperial Estate. Where am I going? To Tenno. Because that's where Shin's going. There was no question. I would go with Hijikata and chase after Ronin heading for Mount Tenno. Despite Fushimi being quite a distance away, soldiers moved at a rapid pace. It was hard for me to keep up, and I was beginning to run short of breath when I saw... someone. He was standing in front of us, shadows obscuring his face and clothes, cloaked in a strange aura. Hijikata seemed to sense it too, and he motioned for the men to halt. The Shinsengumi stopped, save for one man who was either too excited or too foolish to heed the commander. And now he's dead. Gah! I saw a momentary flash of steel as the man yelped.
Hey! What the hell is this? You okay?
The man just laid there, unresponsive. I could see thick red blood already beginning to pool around him. Taken aback at first by the sudden attack, the men all turned now to glare at the stranger.
Ah, judging by those jackets, you're Shinsengumi. Acting like you're the 47 Ronin, huh? Boorish as always.
They were already on edge, but the man's words only made the men more agitated. I had heard from the men that they had their reasons for wearing their uniforms. They wanted desperately to pay the strange man back for his taunts and for attacking their brother, but they knew now was no time for revenge.
First, you got in my way at Ikeda, and now you're all trying to play the good guy around here. So the peasants haven't had their fill of defeat yet. Excuse me, you aren't even samurai, are you? I'd turn back if I were you. Unless you like the thought of coughing up blood like your friend over here.
As he spoke, I felt the air begin to thicken with the rage of the Shinsengumi.
You're the swordsman from Ikeda that beat Soji. I heard you were quite a swordsman, but... Those are pretty big words from such a little man.
Hijikata's smile was anything but warm.
I'd heard you were talented for peasants, but this sorry display tells me it was all for show.
He laughed at the sight of the man he'd just slain.
That man from the inn. Okita, was it? Far too weak to be considered a real swordsman.
Hijikata's teeth were now almost completely bared. I knew Okita wasn't weak at all, and I wanted to tell him so. But it was true that he had been injured.
Insult Soji all you want, but how about you tell us why you killed this man first?
I heard the soft hiss of Nagakora's sword sliding from its scabbard. At his feet lay the man who'd been attacked, his face now an odd pale color. I wept for his spirit.
If I don't like what I hear, then I'm gonna kill you right here.
To defend your warrior's pride, the shogun says, jump, and you say, how high? Why are you pursuing men who've lost and fled the battlefield? Don't you know they've already fled from Mount Tenno to take their own lives?
What? Was he telling the truth? Did the Choshu men commit honorable suicide? I looked over at Hijikata and the rest of his men, but not one of them looked surprised. The man in front of us was trying to stop the Shinsengumi in an attempt to protect the pride of the Choshu samurai, which is what had upset him. From his point of view, I could see why he felt right in what he was doing, but that gave him no right to kill someone just to prove a point. Is it really alright to take a man's life for the sake of someone else's pride? Only you can protect your own pride. Letting others control the value of something important to you will only hurt you later on. How can someone keep their pride they expect someone else to fight for it?
Your sentiment has some truth to it. Are you saying I should simply allow the Shinsengumi to pilfer any pride the Choshu have left, just to gain merit for arresting them?
He did not sound amused. No, that's not really what I meant, but... Under that crimson glare, my voice trailed off.
Pathetic. I thought you were trying to make some kind of point, stranger, but you're just whining like a petulant child. This is war, you idiot!
What?
The man spoke through clenched teeth, and the knuckles of his sword hand turned white.
They started a pointless fight, didn't have the balls to see it through, and then ran away with tails tucked. These cowards don't deserve honor. They're all spineless traitors. You think a man like that deserves an honorable death? They'll die with their goddamn guts and heads in the dirt.
You mean to say that they should have been prepared to die for their cause when they went to war?
Any man who starts a fight he isn't willing to die for doesn't know what it means to be a warrior. Let's say they do have some scrap of pride left. Wouldn't dying in battle be better than dying on your own sword?
Hijikata's own concepts of pride and honor was not something he could easily compromise. No matter how long he and the stranger spoke, I also knew that they would never see eye to eye. Hijikata drew his sword from its scabbard, and I saw Nagakora drop into a fighting stance. Hijikata's eyes narrowed, and after muttering something angry under his breath, Nagakora stepped back and put his blade back in its sheath.
You don't look like a coward to me, so I figure you're ready to finish what you started when you killed one of my men.
Big words from a small man. Do you honestly believe you can defeat me?
In an instant, their swords met, and the clang of metal reverberated through the mid-afternoon air. They sprang apart, eyes fixed on one another, and I saw Hijikata's hands tighten on his sword. The commander's swordsmanship seemed without a true rival, but this man had defeated Okita. I saw Nagakora reach for his own sword. He was to leap into the fight as well, probably hoping to help Hijikata gain the upper hand. When I saw him about to pounce, I couldn't help but scream. Fight as well. I'll fight too! There was only one of them, and if Nagakura and I stood with Hijikata, we'd have a pronounced advantage, so I drew my Kodachi.
That's the spirit, Chizuru. Don't push it, though. You are a girl, after all.
Shh! You baka! Keep that on the down low! We're not supposed to let anyone know about this. Ugh. Shh! Darn it, Shin! I heard the repeated scrape of metal moving as Nagakura and the men behind us all drew their swords to join the commander. Nice. I know you're angry, but I'm not on your route, so just deal with it.
Idiots! Why did we come here?
His words stopped us in our tracks. Our detachment had been given the assignment of tracking down the rebels who'd fled to Mount Tenno. We had no time to waste, but even so, we could hardly just leave Hijikata behind.
Do you think I'll just let you pass?
Pay attention. I'll put a sword through your back as easily as your front. With Hijikata in striking distance, the swordsman didn't dare move towards us.
I'll catch up to you as soon as I'm done with this bastard. Now get out of here!
I was torn. Hijikata was an amazing swordsman, but the stranger was...
Alright, Hijikata, I'm gonna leave this guy to you. Come on, men, we're moving out. Double time!
As he spoke, Nagakura slid his sword back into the scabbard with ease and gestured to the men. But... I was still trying to think it through when Nagakura grabbed my hand. Wow.
Come on, you know the commander's a monster. Even if this chump hurt him, he wouldn't die.
It's true. His words calmed me a little. Right. Run! Without looking back, I kept running as if Nagakura was dragging me. Which probably was. It's almost nighttime. I was waiting at the base of Mount Tenno. Nagakura led some men further up looking for the Choshu rebels, but a few were left at the bottom in case any other Choshu forces returned. I'd stayed with them.
It'll be alright. They'll be back soon, I'm sure of it.
I know, but... Is Hijikata safe? He must be. No sooner were the words out of my mouth than a shadow appeared in the dirt road in front of me. Ah! The shadow stepped toward us and into the light. Well, well, well. Hijikata! I felt tears spring to my eyes and shoved them away with the back of my hand.
Glad to see you're safe, Commander. Doesn't even look like you've been injured. Good work.
Shimada was right. Hijikata was without a scratch, but even so, his expression was dark.
I'd hoped we'd have a real fight, but we barely started when the Satsuma stuck their noses in. What were the Satsuma doing there? Well, his name's Chikage Kazuma. Seems he's part of the Satsuma.
But if he's part of the Satsuma domain, didn't they help the Aizu drive off the Choshu? Why did Kazuma try to stop the Shinsengumi? I frowned. Something wasn't right. Does that mean he disobeyed orders? Kazuma, I mean.
Probably. The men who broke up our fight seemed confused by whatever the hell he was up to. In any case, they probably know they can't push him around. They stand no chance against him. I see. This Kazuma character must have some clout, even among the Satsuma.
Maybe it's because he's powerful enough to hold off men like Okita and Hijikata, but there's something else to him that perplexes me. When Hijikata spoke next, his voice was bitter.
He's a lazy son of a bitch with enough money or influence to do whatever the hell he feels like. A bastard like him has no right to teach me what pride is all about.
Before Hijikata could continue, we heard the sound of men approaching, and Nagakura appeared with the bulk of our detachment trailing behind him. Nagakura stopped for a split second when he saw Hijikata, and then he creeped into a sly grin.
Well, we went up to the top to have a look, but sadly every last one of those bastards already cut themselves wide open.
My heart fell as he explained. I wasn't sad that they'd killed themselves, or that the Shinsengumi hadn't been able to arrest them. Only that more lives had been lost.
That bastard got in our way. Sad to hear we didn't get to bring them to justice, but that's the way of the warrior, yeah.
That's what Nagakura says, but I'm not so sure. I thought about how I feel about Nagakura's words. Interesting. Gotta think about this. I'm trying to figure out if this is to influence his opinion on this subject, or if it's just for us to be honest about how we feel rather than just catering to what he thinks. I'm just not sure. Because she doesn't agree. So instead of BSing him, well, let's try saying I'm not sure I agree. Be honest about it and see where this goes. Do you really think so? If they didn't die here, maybe they could have survived and eventually done something good with their lives. Nagakura gave me a puzzled look. I think he was taken aback by the ambitiousness of my phrase. I even surprised myself a little.
Well, in my book, dying in battle is better than committing suicide. At least I think so. But rather than surviving and being put to shame, they could die as warriors. That's better to me.
From my experience with the Shinsengumi, I could see why Nagakura's perspective made sense. As the daughter of a doctor, though, seeing people close to the brink of death and treating illnesses and injuries, I couldn't see suicide as an option. To take your own life, though. There's so much more to life than fighting, don't you think? Nagakura frowned lightly at my suggestion, then sighed as he continued. Alright, you got a butterfly on my moon of a heart, so...
Maybe you're right. As long as you're alive, you might be able to figure something out.
His expression shifted quickly into a light-hearted smile, and he scratched his head.
Alright then, I will never be like that.
Yay! Okay, we influenced him.
Don't let yourself get too torn up about it. No matter what happens, I will definitely survive.
Alright, we're gonna hold you to that. Thank you. He was just talking about how honorable it seemed for the Choshu to commit an honorable suicide. It seemed, though, he empathized with me. I think he agreed because he understood my point. Even if it was all a display to make me feel better, it worked. I appreciated his gesture. So we returned to Mount Tenno to meet back with the others. On the way back, Hichikata and the men began plotting their next move. It looked like there was still plenty for the Shinsengumi to do in Kyoto.